We've been talking about generational planning in our last few episodes, and today we're going to be talking about how these multi-generational families create staying power and can last for 100, 200 years. Let's get into it. Started there, and then it began to evolve over time into an enterprise, like with some forest products and some building materials. And one thing they do is they review to transmit like the family values that have started this whole thing. That's one thing at the meeting they do is they revisit that for everybody, so that these children have a sense of that identity that I've now taken on a new form of responsibility in this family. And the ceremony that's why ceremonies are so powerful.
Right.
When you graduate, it's commencement, right? I was a high school student. Welcome to the Legacy Life Podcast today, episode 38, I believe today.
Indeed.
It is great to be here. Haven't seen you in several days, so it's kind of nice to be together.
I know. I've been running around like a madman.
Yeah.
Not much sleep, just all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful day.
I leave the house before you're up, and I get back after you're in bed.
Yep. It's about right.
Yep.
And we've been praying for you and for strength and for energy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
So that you can last for 100 years.
Yep.
Yeah, just like the families we're talking about here.
Yeah.
No, we've been having some good meetings last time talking about these multi-generational families and the different things they're doing. And I'm fascinated by the subject. And so today...
There's definitely a lot you can glean from as you talk about it, right? Because every family is a little bit different, and they all do it somewhat differently, but there's the different principles that they each kind of maintain throughout all of the examples. So.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of similarities in the foundational things that these families do, even though it kind of manifests
differently.
Different businesses, different visions, different missions, but the foundation seems to be very similar.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so we thought today we would, from our last one, we were talking about, whether it's just an inheritance or are people being invited into kind of like a movement or a vision. And we thought we'd kind of break down today, like, well, what specifically do some of these families do to create that element of longevity and sustainability in what they're doing? I mean, that doesn't just happen by accident, no one sits there and says, yeah, man, this business has been lasting like 1,000 years, like those Italian families, and we have no idea how we do it,
Yeah.
Like there's definitely intentionality. So as I was kind of researching and kind of going through putting this together, there is, the family business scholars who kind of research these families. They put together stories and different things. The textbook family they tend to go to is kind of like, here's a great example of a family who's doing this, is the Laird Norton family. Laird, Laird. And they traced their wealth back to 1855. And it was two brothers who got together and they started a frontier lumber business. And it was in the Pacific Northwest. And at the time, it kind of started there, and then it began to evolve over time into an enterprise, like with some forest products and some building materials, and then later they kind of broadened their investment and continued to expand as it grew. And today it's a 7-generation family.
Wow.
Yeah. Enterprise. And I think there's over 500 family shareholders in the family structure.
Wow.
Family trust. And they're all related.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so this is a one family that's kind of cited as kind of like that textbook family, the 100-year family, who has sustained both wealth and connection in their families, and I guess a cohesiveness over the 6 or 7 generations. So how do they do this? Well,
right. How does a family do that?
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing these families do, and this is one example, is they'll have annual family summits.
Sounds very professional.
Yes, doesn't it?
It does.
But I bet you, when they first started out, they started out having these family meetings.
Probably in their living room or something.
Exactly. Yeah. It wasn't very large, right? And now with 500 people, I'm sure you maybe have to find some space.
Right. It's like a big family reunion.
A large park with a pavilion or a building or a hotel.
Right.
And so they have these summits, and in one of the reports, these historians, as they're putting together, that there's a gentleman, Peter Evans. He was a fifth generation family member, and he was an in-law. Like, he was not necessarily bloodline.
Yeah.
But he had a position of president in the family enterprise, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
That the family isn't just exclusive. If you're not blood, you're out. Maybe some families do that, but in this particular family, even in-laws were part of the family structure and part of the vision. And so they describe their family summit is like the backbone of the family's governance. Like, this event is like really key in helping with their sustainability.
Yeah.
And so they do it every year, and it's usually like, for them, it's the same weekend every year. So everyone knows, block off October or whatever, whenever it is. And everyone knows that's when the family summit's going to be. So it just becomes something that everyone's committed to, that we know that's the time that we get together.
Right.
And it runs for 3 to 5 days.
Wow.
Yep. And so when I saw that, I was kind of like, okay, so we're not just getting together for coffee and tea on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, this is a whole ordeal.
This is an ordeal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for the planner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, this is, man, if I was in charge of putting that together.
Right, yeah. Gotta have a super admin of
You
the
need
family.
500 family members to help put it together.
Probably, yeah.
So all the branches of the family are invited. And so there's hundreds of family shareholders that come to this meeting.
Right. Like, what do they even talk about? Because, like, I mean, sure, it's like business and stuff like that, but
Right.
like, how do you maintain family?
Exactly. So they re-engage, obviously, to come to this meeting with family members. So it brings connection back again, and they rehearse. And they continue. One thing they do is they review to transmit, like, the family values that have started this whole thing. That's one thing at the meeting they do, is they revisit that for everybody, to just once again remind everyone, this is who we are, this is what we're about. These are some of the stories, back when great grandpa so and so, they'll tell those stories as a way to remember. And this is not a value like this family captured and, like, has, like, the corner of the market on. I mean, if you just read the Bible, God would always constantly say, remember your slavery in Egypt.
Right.
Celebrate this feast. And at that feast of the Passover, they would always recite the Exodus story.
Right.
So people remember, right? So they know where they're tied back to, that they're part of that story, and where they are today is, from that moment,
right,
forward. And so they kind of do the same thing. So they retransmit those values and retell stories. They also will discuss things like their philanthropy, like the family gives, maybe to certain causes, which that can be all sorts of shapes and sizes, whether it's national, local, maybe they're helping individuals. But they'll discuss that. They'll discuss the investments that the family's making, and they'll discuss the long-term direction of where this is headed. So it's kind of what they call, like, the family reset every year. Okay. So the other things that happen. Go ahead.
You say family reset. It's interesting, and I'm curious to see what you have to say about it. But it's like, we talked about how, yes, you need to innovate and, like, change over time to change with the world, but you have to stay true to your values and basically grounding, telling those stories, like, this is where we started, this is the actual vision of what we're doing.
Right.
But it is kind of a reset, being like, okay, do we need to change course? Do we need to shift? Right.
Yeah.
So that's, like, practically how you implement both of those things into it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, with 500 people, there's a lot of voices and maybe a lot of thoughts.
Yep. Many opinions.
About those kind of things. And so, there is definitely a leadership structure, and there's an ownership structure.
Yep.
So there are people who do have final say in things, and there are votes, and there are rights that people do have. So there is kind of, like, the legal parts of that are set up. And that's going to help navigate a lot of that, because I think you're right, because, okay, these are our values, and we're resetting and making sure we're staying grounded to those, but is this a time where the family has to start making adjustments? Like, if you're a building business, are we moving to commercial properties now?
Right.
And we've been doing residential, right? because these are things are changing in our family, and
It's,
and now in these family members we have the expertise to do the commercial now that we didn't have before.
It's incredible that a family stays together for 7 generations like that, because many don't even make it past 2,
Right.
It like there's especially in just today's world, families break down very often in all kinds of ways, for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
But you have to have some level of like selflessness and an ultimate goal that everyone sees to stay connected like that for 7 generations.
Yeah, I would say that it's probably the case that to have a shot, maybe I'll put it that way, at having that kind of success of staying power, there's got to be a strong commitment in the family, almost maybe like a non-negotiable,
right,
to mercy, right? Because we all, there's different temperaments, there's different personalities. Not everyone's going to agree 100% of the time. Sometimes people's words will be amiss at family meetings, maybe even, right? And there's got to be this commitment to we're still family in spite of, and so that you protect yourselves, because, if bitter feelings and hard feelings and unresolved conflicts don't get worked out, I would say that this would be really hard to sustain in those kind of environments. So there's got to be some sort of underlying principle there, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just something that if families implemented, they would change instantly, not even big wealthy families that stay for 7 generations or whatever, but just like any family.
Yeah.
Right.
And connectedness in these families don't even have to be multi-wealthy families. I mean, obviously wealth might multiply over those generations if you do things like this, but it doesn't have to start that way.
Yep, exactly.
Right. And we'll actually be doing an episode, I think, on the different forms of wealth, because we tend to think monetary, and that's one of like 6 or 7 we could talk about.
Right. Yeah.
But at these summits too, I think part of that sustainability is something they do is something rituals around certain traditions or rituals they have, especially with their young people. Like when teenagers are entering the next phase of their life, they'll have like ceremony as a family celebrating the transition from one phase to another phase, so that these children have a sense of that identity that I've now taken on a new form of responsibility in this family. And the ceremony that's why ceremonies are so powerful.
Right.
When you graduate, it's commencement, right? I was a high school student, and now I'm not. Like, I'm entering this different phase of life now, and that ceremony brings that transition to the fore. And so they do those things together. They also, on the other end, the bookends, the young, and then with the elders, they also will honor the senior generations for their commitment and the tasks and what they've done to help the family sustain and be where it is today.
Right.
And formally have ceremonies when they pass the torch. Like, grandpa's no longer the president, let's say, and he hands the torch to the son-in-law or to the son or to the next family member. They'll have ceremony around that. I think that's very powerful.
Yeah.
And that makes sense that you would do that.
Right.
Everyone's in the know.
Yeah.
Everyone claps, applauds, celebrates, has a meal around that. There's this shared communion around those events.
Yeah.
And then they do a lot of fun and bonding. They'll 3 to 5 days, games.
Sure. Yeah.
In fact, in their particular family, they call it Olympic Games. All right. Who can build the fastest house? These are chop down
family
trees.
That big, I'm sure they don't all live in the U.S.
They chop down trees, put that wood through the mill, and they're off and going. Let's see here. Yeah, so they also will talk about business and inheritance topics, which we can get into. There's some really cool creative ideas on how they work inheritance and different things. They have business meetings where they're holding where they'll talk about those who are holding the company shares, the family company shares. What's the highs and the lows, the profits, the losses, the return on investments, the performance of the portfolio. How's that all going? Like, it's inspection. It's a time to really analyze the fundamentals of that as well. And then I really like the fact that a lot of these families, when it comes to the philanthropic endeavors, they even include the children in a lot of that too, to get their say in where we should give and who we should be helping.
Yeah.
And give them a voice in a lot of that. And then they'll bring in guest speakers to educate on different topics for the family.
Interesting.
Yeah. We're going to have so-and-so come in.
The one guy that isn't related. Like, imagine being the one dude in a family of 500 that you just show up to the family gathering. You're just the one dude.
I'm speaking at the Laird Generational Family Summit.
Yeah. It's like everyone's family besides you. Stick out like a sore thumb.
You can sit over there.
Yeah, exactly.
No. But yeah, they'll bring in guests who will come in and speak on various different topics dealing with that'll be beneficial and sow into the family that way.
Yeah.
So they have family council and committees. Just go through some of this. And then I think this is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do they do long-range planning, which I think is important, but they'll do something called generational harvests.
Okay.
Now, this was a kind of a cool thing I was reading about, and it makes sense. But about roughly every 20 years, okay, roughly, give or take.
Sure, yeah.
They do a planned generational harvest where they will, like, liquidating a significant asset at that time in order to share the percentages to who to according to the family trust or the family LLC. There's a certain percentage of ownership people have. The generational harvest, they'll liquidate and then they'll spread that wealth out to the family as kind of like a gift at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So providing that liquidity to each shareholder personally.
Yeah.
About every 20 years. And then but they do that not at the expense of like their core enterprises and whatnot. It's almost like taking some earnings off the table and sharing it with the family.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I said, a one-time inheritance.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. And then they actually have people in the family too. I don't know, did you want to spend more time on that generational thing?
No, I just never really thought about something like that.
Yeah. And so like, every 20 years or so, there's like, okay, it's time, take some money off the table. Of course, with the meetings and the long-term planning, they kind of know and can anticipate, well, at the generational harvest, we'll probably have about this much to liquidate and share and anticipate.
Yeah.
And maybe that's an exciting time for the family.
Right.
Maybe they go all out on that family annual trip.
Yeah, true.
The generational harvest.
And you only get a few of them in your lifetime,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And the other thing I thought was interesting is that they'll have people in the family who are their job is the storytelling and the archiving of the history.
Interesting.
So pictures, events, recording down the stories of things that have happened during the Olympic Games when the family was playing and this happened and so-and-so came and spoke. Like they'll archive all of that. And it's almost like they are the Laird Family Historical Society, if you will. Like they're keeping the family genealogy.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that people can always go back and be able to know exactly the things that took place and nothing's lost.
Right.
I think that's kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
And so they also will research the ancestors to bring part of those stories into the archive as well. So there's always a tie back to the story.
Right.
Beginning and where we're going.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the bigger roles in the family. Not the amount of people that do it, but that's like their whole thing.
Yeah.
Like that's their thing. If they don't have someone to do that, then they have no vision to really like lean back on.
Right.
In these meetings that they have.
Yeah. And you'd think in that position too, I'm sure is a compensated position through the family, trust
I'm
or
sure.
whatever, to help give that person, because that's a job. So we talked about their legacy and their values. They continue to repeat those things. They talk about the inheritance and the ownership rules of how all those things work. So there's a kind of a business meeting boardroom dynamic to this as this gets large enough, in the continuity of the next generation, they really reinforce the message that we're stewards, we're not just recipients. Right? It's not about entitlement, it's about stewardship. So again,
they weren't the first generation that started the thing.
Right.
They were born into it, you know?
Right. They were born into it, and they're taught,
Yep.
you have to treat yourself as if you're the first. You have to take on that same responsibility that everything we're managing in this family meeting, we are borrowing from our grandchildren.
Yep.
And every generation has got to continue to get that message that they're not just recipients, they are the stewards of this great project and blessing our family gets to be in all the ways that it is, because that's what we're about.
Yeah.
There's definitely a tie to that. So again, inheritance is transferred in a moment, but the meaning of those investments take a lifetime to transfer that message.
Or multiple lifetimes.
Right.
7 generations of lifetimes.
Yep. So, and so 6, 7 generations, there's a saying in this realm, and they call it shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. It's usually they're here and then you're gone in 3 generations. And they'll say things like, one of the reasons why it often implodes is like lack of communication, unclear expectations, right? No shared purpose. Those things are, I think that's the glue right there, those kind of things. So if someone's going to really take up this mantle, just know that, if you're going to take up this challenge, but also opportunity, because everybody has the opportunity to do this.
Sure.
Is to really be committed to the hard work of instilling those things, being intentional. It takes a lot of intentionality.
Yeah, it really does.
So, because, my gosh, now if you have 500 shareholders, that takes some effort to make sure you continue the communication, make sure everyone's informed, everyone knows what's going on, right?
And there's just so many factors because people are so different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think by doing that, I can see that younger people, you think about, do young people really care about their family meetings and the things like that? Yeah. I mean, if you're communicating this way, this is things they're going to look forward to.
Right.
Can't wait to get together with the family and everyone I know, because there's this relational capacity that comes with these that I think can be really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this was just really eye-opening to me, like the effort that goes into this and how the layers continue to build on themselves as the family gets larger. And hats off to families like this who are doing it.
It's incredible. There's some sort of like anointing to do something like that, because that is no small feat. Obviously, we're talking about them. Not a lot of families can say that they have over 500 family business, all shareholders, and they've been doing it for 7 generations.
Yeah. It's definitely stands out, kind of like they said, this is the textbook.
Yeah.
But they do these studies, and there are a lot of families out there doing this.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily advertise like we're a 250-year generation family.
Right.
Which may be part of the success of it.
Potentially, yeah.
You're not trying to
keep it hidden.
Yeah. Or they're just doing their thing and not necessarily trying to pay attention to that. They're just trying to stay focused on their purpose.
Yep.
So I hope this episode was, entertaining and enlightening to all of you as it was to us to kind of study and see what these families are doing. If you have a question about your family legacy, no matter how small or how big, whether you have family summits or don't have family summits, but you just want to have a conversation, please look in the show notes to get the link to our calendar and schedule a short 30-minute free consultation. We can have a conversation, answer your questions. If you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Every Monday, we'll get a new episode to you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.